Is it possible that some people from the nation visited Sonny Liston and said, if you don't lose this fight, we would kill you? Is it possible, if that happened, that Sonny Liston would have been intimidated by it? Yep, I think it is.
I think Sonny gave that second fight away. I swear. He said, no, he said, you win and you lose, you know? And I say in the first round? Nah.
Years later in the Las Vegas casino, I asked him, I said, did you go into the tank for that? He said, gee, man, that guy was crazy. He said, I didn't want anything to do with him. And the Muslims were coming up. He said, who needed that? And I went down. I wasn't hit.
So much of a fighter is that internal mechanism, you know, how he sees himself.
It's not a matter that he lost. You can survive losing as an athlete. You can't survive losing as an athlete if you don't seem to have any honor and you don't seem to have honestly put forth an effort. And that's the image that Liston had.
Disgraced and unwanted, Liston went to Sweden in 1966, fighting 4 times in 10 months. Then, in May of 1967, he returned to his home in Las Vegas. He won 10 more bouts, 9 by knockout, before taking on an old sparring partner, Leotis Martin, in December of 1969. In June of 1970, Liston entered the ring for what would be the last time. His opponent was the Bayonne bleeder, Chuck Wepner.
Of all the fights I had, 147 amateur and pro, he was the hardest puncher of anybody I ever fought. It's almost like getting hit with a baseball bat. Every time he hit me, I could feel something in my face break.
Chuck needed about 72 stitches that night.
Some guys don't get that in a whole career. I got that in one fight.
Afterwards, we're in the locker room, and I say, was he the bravest guy you ever fought? Liston looks at me, and he says, no, his manager is.
Liston collected $13,000 for his 10th round knockout of Wepner. But days before the fight, he lost a $10,000 bet when Jerry Quarry KO'd Mac Foster. Liston's managers took the rest of his purse, and he ended up with nothing from the fight.
Of course, remember, there's an inherent beauty in soup cans that Michelangelo could not have imagined existed.
Talkative Andy Warhol and Gabby Sonny Liston always fly Braniff. They like our girls, they like our food, they like our style, and they like to be on time. Thanks for flying Braniff, fellas.
When you got it, flaunt it.
When Sports Century returns, Sonny Liston settles into the world of neon lights, shady deals, and hard luck.
I would believe almost any strange story about Sonny Liston, as long as it was at night and it was liquor and it was in Vegas and evildoers were involved.
Las Vegas was founded by a mobster. It was the capital of mobdom. Its business was gambling and letting people let loose.
That was the perfect spot for Liston to be. He was happy there. The activity, the action, you know, that was Las Vegas.
Sonny liked a good time. He trained hard, but he lived hard. And he partied hard. He wouldn't turn down a drink, and he wouldn't turn down female companionship.
Still, Sonny would go home every night to Geraldine. He was still, you know, a good husband, but he was afraid of Geraldine. He just got a new car, and I said, Sonny, when you have personalized plates put on? He says, not with Geraldine following me around town.
Predictably, Liston had his brushes with the Las Vegas police. With no visible means of support, he hung at the casinos, often in the company of pit boss Ash Resnick.
Sonny was known as a real bully around the casinos, and he always had somebody to look after him.
Ash Resnick was seeing Sonny's presence all the time, socially, professionally.
Like Liston, Resnick had an active mob-related history.
He came from New York, supposedly mixed up in some basketball scandals. He had a very bad reputation.
And there was no doubt that if Ash said Sonny was going to do something, Sonny was going to do it. I came up with the idea of photographing him in the casino at Caesar's Palace. And the pit boss was Ash Resnick, and Sonny was to arrive at 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock came, no Sonny. 3:30, no Sonny. 4 o'clock, and Resnick said to me, "I'll take care of him." And the next day, Liston showed up, and he was a model of a perfect subject.
Trading on his still famous name, Liston won small roles in television and movies.
Why him, baby?
Well, you know, I like him. He looks like a nice guy, and I like his smile.
Mr. Morgan, are you married? Married? Are you kidding? I can get any dame I want. All I have to do is to put out my hand and grab.
On Thanksgiving Day in 1970, Liston was in an automobile accident and hospitalized for 7 days. Less than 4 weeks later, he died at 38 under mysterious circumstances.
I received a call that Sonny Liston was deceased in his residence.
Geraldine discovered the body. A great amount of time passed before she reported it. The general suspicion is she was cleaning up whatever evidence was there she didn't want anyone to see.
I knew that Sonny was reputed to have had underworld connections and that he was a heroin addict, so my primary concern when I got there was to be as thorough as possible.
They saw some drug paraphernalia, marijuana and things, but who knows what was planted and what was not. The scene was dressed up to make it look like he had given himself an accidental injection of heroin.
Sonny hated needles. We were at the hotel in Sweden when I said to him, "I don't believe you got your shot, but you had to get a shot to come over here." He looked at me, said, "Sorry," and that was the end. That's why I always have this tremendous reservation about the way his life ended.
Stories surfaced in the media suggesting that Liston may have been murdered.
Murder? He wasn't in the fighting. He wasn't in anything. We were getting ready to go to Japan and referee a fight. So it wasn't that he was in anybody's way.
He needed money, and he was into some things he probably shouldn't have been into. From what I was saying, he made some threats he probably shouldn't have made. It got him killed.
Ash Resnick wanted him to throw the weapon fight. Sonny did not want to do it. And as a result, he may well have been bumped off as revenge for that.
Ash Resnick was a wise guy, and he was a gambler, and he fixed basketball games, but Ash Resnick would not kill anybody.
There's no basis in fact for these theories. He did have traces of morphine in his tissue samples, but the man suffered no bullet wounds, no stab wounds, no blunt trauma. That rules out any obvious foul play in his death.
We might go on making assumptions and presuppositions, and nobody will ever know.
Before he was laid to rest, Sonny Liston was given one last party in the form of a gaudy funeral procession.
The guards were saluting, you know, as the funeral procession went by, and Joe Louis said to me, "Boy, Sonny would get a kick out of that, a cop saluting him."
He wasn't the glowering, baleful black felon that he used to be, climbing the Empire State Building with Fay Ray in his hands. He was now a dead Sonny Liston.
When we came down the strip, everybody was standing out, blowing horns and everything. It was really nice.
People coming, streaming out of the casino and lining the streets. He was just another Vegas show, used to the very end.
People born round don't die square. So he wasn't going to die of old age. He was going to die the way he died, because that's the way he lived.
There's a headstone, and it just says Sonny Liston, a man. And I don't think you can say anything better about him. Never had a chance to be anything else.
He remains and will always remain a tragic figure in the history of American sports.